Welcome to Part 5 of our Service Bus Management and Monitoring reporting series. SBM writes report results to Azure Application Insights to enable you to integrate this data to your broader reporting ecosystem and also to enable you to leverage Azure Alerting. In this video, we will first identify the results written to Application Insights metrics. Next, we will create Azure Alert rules to automatically trigger sending notifications to your support team when an alert condition is met. In this way, SBM can turn your business rules into real-time alerts to enable rapid response. Navigate to your SBM resource group and select the SBM Application Insights instance. Select Metrics. The scope should be set to SBM AI. Let's select the metric namespace drop-down list. We can see a few options here. Let's select log-based metrics. Then, under the metric drop-down list, scroll down and we can see a section titled Custom. Here we can see all metrics written from SBM. Heading back to the metric namespace drop-down list. This time, let's select Service Bus Management under the Custom header. Now we can see just the SBM-specific metrics. Let's head back to log-based metrics. We will scroll down to our first metric and observe there are 5 instances of each metric. For each report you configure, SBM will write 5 different sets of data to Application Insights metrics. The first is match count. This is a simple count of messages scanned which match the report definition. For example, if we scanned 200 out of 2,000 messages and 72 were a match, then the count would be 72. There may be more that may have matched in the 1,800 messages not scanned, but we did not scan these. This is a simple count of matches in relation to the messages we did scan. The next is % matched. This is a percentage representing the count of messages which matched divided by the count of messages scanned. Continuing our example, this would be 72 divided by 200. The result would be 36%. This is a rounded whole figure and so would show as 36. Next, % scanned. This is configured in SBM settings. It is a value between 1 and 100 representing your requirements. When set to 100, you are requesting SBM to read all messages present on the queue or topic at report runtime. This will give the most accurate results but will require the most scanning time for large queues. Next, projected matches. This is the count of messages which may have matched had we scanned 100% of all messages. This recalculates the % matched value without rounding and multiplies it by the total count of messages present on the queue. For example, let's assert we configured SBM to scan only 10% of messages on a queue. As noted above, our report definition matched 72 messages out of the 200 scanned messages, resulting in a 36% match. We multiply this by the total count of messages on the queue, which was 2,000. This results in a projected match count of 720. In other words, had we scanned the entire queue, we may have matched 720 messages in total, presuming a linear spread of matches. This is an indicative statistic only. It is worth mentioning that when we scan less than 100% of a queue, we chunk our scan and jump by sequence number to evenly scan the entire queue, while approximately scanning the configured percentage of messages. So for example, if we were asked to scan 10% of a queue which had 1,000 messages, the solution would scan approximately 20 messages at the start. It would jump sequence numbers from the maximum retrieved plus 180. It would scan another 20, then repeat the same action until all messages are scanned. In this way, it would have scanned approximately 100 messages, skipped 900 messages, and scanned evenly through the entire queue. Finally, total messages. This is a simple count of messages present on the queue at the time the report process ran. In addition to these value types, Azure Application Insights tracks several values: average, count, min, max, and sum. For the purposes of SBM metrics, you can simply use the sum value. Let's consider a simple example. Let's presume there are 99 messages on the main queue. Our scan settings are set to scan 100% of the queue, and our report matched 100% of all messages. Here is what we would see in Application Insights metrics. As we scanned every message and they all matched, the match count is 99. The percent matched is 100%. The percent scanned is 100%. The projected matches is 99, and the total count of messages present were 99. Let's consider a more interesting example. Let's presume there are 1,000 messages on the main queue. SBM is configured to scan 50% of the queue. Let's presume our report matched only 10% of the messages we scanned. Here is what we would see in Application Insights metrics. The match count is 50 as we scanned 500 messages and 10% matched. The percent matched is 10%. The percent scanned is 50%. The projected matches is 100. This is because we only scanned 50% of available messages, and of these 500 messages, we matched 50. So we would project to match double this were we to scan the entire queue, presuming a linear matching distribution. Finally, the total count of messages present was 1,000. Now that we have reviewed the data that SBM sends to Application Insights metrics, let's create an Azure Alert rule. We will implement the same red alert logic we created in the third video in this reporting series about consumers. This rule will be considered to be met if the count of stale messages on the main queue is 200 or more, or we have 10 or more messages present on the dead letter queue, or we have at least one message on the dead letter queue which met our exception report. I'm going to query on the match count variant of each report as I have configured to scan 100% of messages on this resource. You may wish to use the projected matches if you chose to scan less than 100% of messages. Let's create a new Azure Alert rule. First, let's craft a KQL query. Within Application Insights, expand Monitoring and select Logs. Select the Custom Metrics table and Run to view some data. Here, we see the results written to metrics from SBM. Our report names are in the Name column. We can see the Value Sum column is our sum value. Let's expand a row, then expand Custom Dimensions. Here we can see our various dimensions. Here is a query which captures the most recent result from each of our three reports. The first result is captured for the main queue and the second and third reports from the dead letter queue. It then runs our red alert rule logic checking that the count of stale messages on the main queue is greater than or equal to 200, or the count of messages on the dead letter queue is greater than or equal to 10, or that we have at least one message on the dead letter queue with our defined exception. The report will output a simple number 1 if the rule is a match or 0 if not a match. Now let's change from simple mode to KQL mode. Let's run this query to see the result. At the moment it evaluates to 0. Let's save this as a named query. We will call it Order Processor Red Alert. If we wish to trigger an Azure Alert for our SBM Amber Alert, we would follow the same process to replicate the Amber Alert here. Click on Alerts. Create Alert Rule. Under Condition, select Signal Name, Custom Log Search. In the Logs window, select Queries. Expand Other and select our configured report. At the bottom, select Continue Editing. This will move the query into the Alert Rule Search Query window. Set the measurement to Result and Total. You can set the granularity as desired. If we set to 15 minutes, we may not capture the results. At the point in time, the 15-minutely SBM results become available in Application Insights. It may be better to set to 5-minute granularity. This way, the alert will fire shortly after the results are written and available. We won't split by dimensions. We will use a static threshold type. Operator greater than or equal to with a threshold value of 1. That is, when our query evaluates to 1, our red alert has been fired. Select the Actions tab. You may have your own action groups defined already. For this video, we will simply define a quick action with name SBM Alerts. Select the Details tab. Let's give it a rule name of Order Processor Consumer Issues. Optionally, provide a description. Under Identity, select the user-assigned managed identity and select the SBM identity, SBMMUAMI. You can optionally tag this alert, move to Review and Create, review the details, and create the rule. Now, shortly after SBM writes data to Application Insights, which meets our Red Alert rule. Azure Alerting will detect this state and will issue an automated email to our support inbox. You may wish to suppress more than one email for this alert in a given period of time. This can be achieved using Azure Alert processing rules. This is beyond the scope of this video, but is a useful feature in this context. Let's wait some time, and in that time, I will add a message to the dead letter queue, which contains the JSON convert exception message. Welcome back. And here is the email from Azure to our support desk informing us our Red Alert rule has been triggered. In this video, we have shown you SBM report results written to Application Insights metrics. We have described each statistic, enabling you to integrate this data to your own broader reporting ecosystem. We have created an Azure Alert rule to match our SBM Red Alert, and we have seen the email sent from Azure Alerting when the rule is triggered. This demonstrates the power of the SBMM solution. As shown in earlier videos, SBM provides unlimited reporting potential based on messages present on your service bus resources. With SBM, you can now expose data previously unavailable and, to our knowledge, unavailable in any other solution. With SBM Traffic Light iconography, you have an all-in-one management and health dashboard. And with this data sent to Application Insights, you can utilize Azure Alerting to achieve truly semi-real-time notifications direct to your support team to help guarantee your SLAs. If you have yet to give it a try, please visit the Azure Marketplace. Search for Service Bus Management and give SBM a try today. And of course, we will support you through installation and setup with no support costs. We want to get you up and running smoothly so you can enjoy the power, convenience, and flexibility of SBM. Thanks for joining us on our comprehensive service bus management reporting deep dive video series.